Action.
Oh, I'm sorry, from where?
For a show with so many gags and laughs, you'd be shocked to know there are hardly any improvised moments. Over the course of 12 seasons of The Big Bang Theory, there were plenty of bloopers, but improvised moments rarely happen since the script was so tightly written. The few moments were great though. One whispered impromptu line actually totally redefined a character. When were the laughs we saw on screen scripted? Not as often as you'd think. Let's take a look.
What is everyone booing at?
Everyone loves a good Star Trek reference, but this one really took the cake. Wil Wheaton had appeared in the series as himself multiple times and wound up becoming pretty good pals with the crew.
Game over, moon pie.
This episode in the 9th season saw the group of pals excitedly attending a Star Wars film. Cue the epic entrance of Wil Wheaton. He took the whole cast by surprise as he was wearing a full Star Trek uniform, and was immediately booed by everyone. This was a bit of a Spock sneak peek since, aside from a few writers, no one knew about the trick in advance, resulting in a very memorable and hilarious moment. What would The Big Bang Theory be without Kevin Sussman? Turns out he almost wasn't as significant a part as he ended up being. So how did he go from a small, occasionally seen role to one of the most memorable characters? It was actually all thanks to an improvised line. Let's throw back to Season 3, Episode 7. By this time, Penny had already rejected Stuart, but that doesn't mean he wasn't still vibing her. As Penny was leaving in this particular episode, Stuart let out a kind of whimpering mumble.
I love you.
That one small, barely heard line made all the difference, as the writers totally loved it and thought it would make a great character. So after that, every time we saw Stuart, he had that kind of regressive quality for all of his dialogue, which shaped him into one of our all-time favorite Big Bang characters. Remember when Sheldon had a, well, let's call it a wild moment with Amy?
Are you saying you want to spank me?
He was not too impressed with her for lying about being sick just to enjoy and relish in the luxurious ointment rubs. While it doesn't seem like too big a deal, Sheldon felt it was an offense worthy of punishment, and his go-to? Well, this bit of, derriere hitting.
Oh my.
What's more surprising than that is that the scene wasn't even in the original script and wasn't supposed to be on screen at all. However, it happened and made the cut, even though Jim Parsons had a really hard time holding it together during this ridiculous venture. We know there are loads of laughs from the live studio audience and us watching at home, but all those laughs we see from the cast throughout the series? Well, according to Cuoco, for the most part, those giggles aren't scripted at all. The actors had loads of fun shooting, especially with the energy of that live studio audience. So much of the time, they couldn't help letting a few laughs slip through.
To the planetarium.
Let's go!
This has definitely been a huge part of the authenticity in the acting we see. Speaking of laughs, all those times that Cuoco wound up crying from laughing so hard? How about those tears of emotion?
So happy!
Regardless of what kind they were, most of the time those special moments were also improvised. For Cuoco, the show became such a huge part of her life, so it was hard not to be passionate and invested in the stories that they were telling.
Oh, that's gonna make me cry!
How about this dinner scene with Bernadette Penny and Raj's potential fiancé Anu?
Tell me about Raj.
Let's just say this probably isn't the answer she was hoping for.
Raj is like so much fun to hang out with. No, I mean he is, but no.
Penny definitely didn't do Raj any favors with that lackluster and kind of ambiguous answer. This major awkward moment resulted in loads of laughs for the audience and cast alike. Whose line is it? This was a case of a silence that went on a bit too long. So much so that Bielek straight up said she didn't know who was supposed to be speaking.
I don't know whose line it is.
After the silence and lots of laughs, the responsibility fell on Johnny Galecki, who was the one missing a line all along. Thank goodness an assistant handed him a script to get the team back on track. Things were awkward for everyone when Leonard and Penny broke up, but we all know it was the hardest on Sheldon. Of course it would be. Remember when Penny really went out of her way to make sure she and Sheldon could be friends and made him that delicious meal of spaghetti and hot dogs?
Will you cut up hot dogs into little chunks and mix them in with the sauce?
Apparently while shooting, Sheldon was very touched. So touched that he forgot what he was supposed to be saying completely.
I don't know.
Or maybe the spaghetti was just that good. Either way, Penny just went ahead and enjoyed her pasta, leaving Sheldon totally hanging.
It's okay, this tastes so good.
No one gets between Sheldon and his mint-condition comic books. But in the peanut reaction episode, we saw Penny push her luck, threatening to draw on one of them.
Sheldon, do you understand the concept of blackmail?
Well, of course Oh.
As Sheldon went on and on explaining the importance of these very special comic books, it seems Penny got a bit lost, so she wound up having no option but to ask what her line was.
What's my line?
Once Howard and Bernadette had Hallie, there were plenty of regular visits with the whole family. Remember this scene when Howard decided to move a sleeping Hallie to a bedroom for a bit more quiet? Well, on his way, he had a bit of a fumble, knocking right into the chair with little sleeping Hallie. What really made this moment was how nervous and shocked he looked after the incident, which caused everyone to crack up. It's not just the actors who improvise and have bloopers of their own. The live studio audience made things unpredictable each episode. Anyone remember when Penny and Leonard moved in together and looked forward to being free to do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted?
Sheldon's not here, so we are going to put on music and dance in our underwear.
Well, that included dancing in their underwear, and they went for it. Though not everyone was as happy as they were.
I'm sorry, she said ew!
A definite way to throw any actor. However, Kaley and Cuoco were really good-humored about it and laughed it off. They even went so far as to point that audience member towards the exit. Their house, their rules. Speaking of moving in, let's throw back to when Sheldon and Amy took that big leap and slept in the same bed together. While we can't say we were surprised to learn that Sheldon makes plenty of noises while he's sleeping, an odd mix of snoring and loud, awkward sighing, enough to drive anyone crazy. While Bialik managed to get through the scene for the most part, both she and Parsons couldn't help but laugh right through it. Everyone forgets a line now and then, but this particular scene on this particular day proved to be a bit too much for Maya Bialik, who couldn't remember when she was supposed to speak or what words she was meant to say.
Your turn.
Am I supposed to say something?
For such a smart woman, she was pretty lost in this scene while shooting. The amount of science terminology and speech that happens in the series makes for some hilarious mistakes and forgotten terms.
That MA equals MG, and what do we know from this?
Considering it's hard enough for us to even catch and understand all that Sheldon, Amy, and the gang say, we don't blame them.
Their experiment on kaon decay supported our... I don't remember the word.
When working on such a tightly scripted series with all the pressures of a live audience, slip-ups are bound to happen.
Please, I may be scared of butterflies, what?
But for one actor in particular, they were pretty frequent. Any guesses as to who that might be? None other than Kaley Cuoco.
So you've been using...
It probably doesn't help having so many eyes on the actors while they're shooting. That pressure is intense. With such a stellar cast, brilliant writers, and 12 years of establishing the Big Bang Theory world, it's no surprise there were so many laughs. All the science terminology definitely makes for plenty of flubbed lines. With rumors of a reboot floating around, we're keeping our fingers crossed we'll get to see more of these hilarious characters on screen soon.